Hello, and welcome to our 24th D&D 3.5 Prestige Class review. Today we're going to be looking at the Legendary Dreadnought Prestige Class from the Epic Level Handbook. The Legendary Dreadnought is described as the ultimate foot soldier, an absolute force of destruction, a total warrior who excels at sheer combat prowess. This is a Prestige class based on winning fights through brute force and sheer toughness and combat power. This is one that's really meant for fighters and barbarians, some rangers, some ex-paladins and blackguards, and some clerics, paladins, and monks as well. This prestige class is going to require a base attack bonus of plus 23. Now keep in mind that a plus 23 base attack bonus is not something you're going to be able to get by level 23. It's not going to be attainable until level 25, and that's assuming that you took your first 20 levels in a full base attack prestige class. The reason for this is that attack bonuses and saving throws work a little bit differently after level 20. They all go off of the same scale. There's a table for it in the book, and they basically each increase roughly one every 2 levels, as opposed to, some increasing every level, full base attack, some increasing 3/4, and some increasing every other level, like with wizards and sorcerers and other such classes. The reason for this is mostly just to keep the math consistent at indefinitely high levels, such as, level 100, you could have a plus 75 attacking monk and a plus 100 base attacking fighter, and there would be a plus 25 gap between them, and that's way outside the range of a d20 roll. So whatever armor class is chosen is either going to be automatically hit by the fighter or automatically missed by the monk, or worse, both. So to prevent gameplay relying on natural ones and natural 20s, it's all been rolled into one progression, which is 1/2 level. In some ways, one could almost see the standardization as the early seeds of 4th edition being sown in 3rd edition, actually, before 3.5 even came out. This is technically a 3rd edition prestige class, although it has, of course, been errated for 3.5 edition. So the Legendary Dreadnought is one that you can take after your 25th level as a fighter, barbarian, ranger, or some combination thereof. Ex-paladins and blackguards, I'm not sure why it specifies ex-paladins or blackguards, can also take this prestige class as well, and you also are going to need a few feats. So you're going to need combat reflexes, great cleave, so assuming cleave as well, improved bull rush, and improved critical. Only the latter of these feats is really going to be standard issue for the fighter. Combat reflexes is, of course, very important if you're going to play any kind of fighter with reach, or any kind of defender-style fighter. Improved bull rush can occasionally be useful, and it is good as a prerequisite for the shock trooper feat, so you're likely to have it if you're going for a charging build. As for great cleave, while it is nice to have, especially if your campaign features a lot of large battles against many opponents, it's certainly not one that you're expected to take, and putting 2 feats into the ability to basically do a whirlwind attack, but a little bit worse, is not something that every fighter type out there is going to be doing. That said, this is an epic level prestige class, and it is only 4 feats. So if you are playing a fighter, and you get to level 16, and only then realize that your campaign likely is going to continue into epic levels, you can very quickly pick up the feats required for this prestige class. As for other classes, you are going to need a little bit more forethought and planning, but it's still not very much of an issue. That said, I would still give this prestige class moderately restrictive prerequisites just on account of the feats. The 15 ranks in Intimidate are going to be pretty standard for the type of fighter that's going to be going for this prestige class, so I wouldn't consider that to be very restrictive at all. Even given the fact that fighters don't get that many skill points, Intimidate is one of the skills that's most useful to them. So the Legendary Dreadnought gives you a d12 hit die. Since attack bonuses and saving throws are standardized at epic levels to increase at roughly 1 per 2 levels, you don't get anything special in that regard from this class. You advance the same rate as everybody else, but you do get 2+ intelligence modifier skill points per level, which will be a downgrade if you are a barbarian or ranger coming into this prestige class, but if you're a fighter, it'll be about the same that you're used to. And the only other downgrade, of course, is going to be your skill list, which gets even smaller than the fighter's skill list. You only get access to climb, craft, intimidate, jump, swim, and that's about it. A D12 hit die is the best thing you can ask for in 3.5, and this prestige class actually offers even more ways to get more hit points, so this is really just the beginning. At level 1, you gain the Unstoppable feature. This allows you to concentrate your power once per day, gaining a plus 20 bonus on a strength check to break or burst a door or an item, and you get 1 additional use per 5 levels thereafter. Now, this is phrased a little bit differently for many prestige classes, as this one does expect you potentially to expand it past the 10 levels that it has written out here, so it does give intervals for each class feature to recur. This is something that you're going to see throughout this prestige class and a lot of the other prestige classes in the Epic level handbook. Since, again, a lot of these prestige classes are meant to be extrapolated effectively out to infinity, the prestige class features are given in a recurring way rather than providing some sort of capstone at level 10. They're simply ones that repeat over and over, ad nauseum, ad infinitum, however you want to look at it. This feature is going to let you bust through pretty much any obstacle in the game, be it a door, breaking open a chest, or even punching through a wall of force, as this prestige class feature allows you to do as a special ability with a DC 32 strength check. And with the plus 20 bonus included, this means that even if you had a 10 strength taking this prestige class somehow, which you really couldn't at all, but if you somehow did, it would still give you a 40% chance of shattering that wall of force. With the sort of strength that you'd be expecting from an epic level character of a plus 8 or so, you're going to be almost certain to be able to punch through a wall of force with your bare hands. That sounds pretty epic to me, but it's just one of the ways that you can use this class feature. If your adventure is not going to include breaking open any doors or chests for that day, you can also use this to give yourself a plus 20 bonus on a single attack roll. While this might not seem like much, like maybe effectively a once per day use of the True Strike spell, you can apply this as a free action before attacking, so you can simply decide that one of your full attacks is going to get a plus 20 bonus to the first attack, and take an equivalent power attack and deal out at least an extra plus 20 damage, if not plus 40 if you're using a two-handed weapon. This certainly isn't bad, and if you compare it to another epic feat that you could have gotten instead, such as epic weapon specialization, you would need to make 10 attacks for this to come out even, which you're likely going to do in the course of an epic adventuring day. So this prestige class feature could be considered a little bit weak compared to the feat that you could be getting instead, and again, the ability to break down a door with a strength check is usually inferior to simply damaging it, especially if you have an adamantine weapon to bypass 20 points of hardness. That said, the ability to break through walls of force with your bare hands is pretty cool, so perhaps we'll give this one a pass on flavor. At second level, you gain the Unmovable feature, which lets you make yourself unmovable once per day, plus 1 additional time per day for every 5 levels thereafter. This is going to give you a plus 20 bonus to either a grapple check to resist being grabbed with improved grab, so this is something a lot of monsters have to basically let them make a grapple check for free, a strength check to avoid a bull rush, trip, or similar effect, or against any other effect that would move you physically or magically, or any one saving throw. The wording here is a little bit weird because then it specifies that if an effect that would move your character physically or magically doesn't normally allow a saving throw, you can use a will saving throw with this ability. So it sort of seems to imply at first that this is only for effects that would move you physically or magically, but it then becomes clear that you are using this, in fact, in some cases to avoid one that would move you without a saving throw. So if that's a little bit confusing, this does just let you get a plus 20 bonus on a saving throw once per day, which can be monumentally important. Unless you're facing a creature with save DC so far out of your league that you shouldn't be fighting it anyway, this is really going to be able to make the difference for you. You are going to have to decide to use this before making the roll, but if your wizard is giving you knowledge of what you're fighting and what the enemy creature's abilities do, this can allow you to dodge some pretty deadly abilities, some literally deadly abilities that will kill your character if you fail the saving throw. Being able to avoid being grappled is also pretty helpful, as getting grappled with improved grab by a large monster can reduce you to, instead of swinging your greatsword, fighting with a dagger as you helplessly try to break free against that very, very high opposed grapple check, usually aided by the monster having far more hit dice than you, the benefits of still having full base attack bonus from all of its hit dice, and the very copious size modifiers to grappling. As for avoiding bull rush, that'll be helpful if you're trying to avoid being shoved off of a cliff into lava, but for the most part, that's not going to come up. You're mostly going to be using this to succeed on saving throws that you really need to succeed on, and secondarily to avoid being grappled, although it's going to be very difficult to make that decision, especially when you're sitting on 1 use per day, to avoid being grappled, rather than saving it for when you might really need it. In fact, keeping this ability as life insurance might be your best decision at epic levels, especially given how many creatures such as the Muse Spore that can just outright kill you with a single failed save. At level 3, you gain Shrug Off Punishment, which is going to give you 12 bonus hit points, and this feature repeats every 5 levels thereafter, so at 8th level you get another 12 bonus hit points, 13th, 18th, and so on. This is pretty nice, although it's not as good as Epic Toughness. You do get bonus feats later on, which you could use to take Epic Toughness if you wanted to, but at its base, given that Epic Toughness is one of those feats you can take over and over, this is going to be worse than its corresponding feat. However, you are getting a feature every level of this prestige class, whereas a straight Epic Fighter is only going to get a feat every other level, so you can look at this as just a helpful side bonus. At level 4, you gain the Thick Skinned ability. This is going to give you damage reduction 3, with nothing bypassing it, and this is going to improve by 3 every 5 levels thereafter, so at level 9, level 14, level 19, and so on. This is going to be about equivalent to the damage reduction epic feat, but again, this is going to be something that you're going to be getting alongside other benefits that are effectively equivalent to feats, and you're going to be getting them, one of them at least, every level. So this isn't a great ability by itself, but in tandem with the others, it's just going to keep making your character unstoppable in combat. At level 5, you're going to get a bonus feat from a pretty short list. The damage reduction feat is not on there, but Epic Toughness is, alongside stuff like Epic Prowess, and a few other feats like Armor Skin that can help you increase your armor class. These feats are going to give you a reason to stay in the Prestige class instead of going back to Fighter and keep yourself cycling through those different toughening abilities, but by themselves they're not a fantastic list of feats. That said, you're going to be able to get most of your recurring feats from here, so for a long-term Prestige class, this will be a pretty good set. That said, if you are really serious about improving your damage reduction, you are going to want to go back into Fighter so you can get it off those bonus feats. You can still take it off of your regular feats, of course, but it will be a little bit slower. And you should easily have a 21 Constitution while taking this Prestige class, especially when epic level ability enhancers come into play. So, overall, looking at this Prestige class, we can essentially see it as giving you one roughly feat equivalent feature at every level you take, whereas continuing on as a fighter, for example, you would only get such a feature every other level by taking a feat. This makes it seem like a pretty good deal, and for the most part it is. While you are going to be definitely leaning into per day abilities with this one, so you are going to be running out of a resource besides your hit points, that's not necessarily a bad thing, as the benefit it gives you can be pretty strong and can allow you to really power through fights. Being able to get a plus 20 on a save and hopefully essentially succeed on it automatically is going to be very, very helpful for your character. That might be this Prestige class's strongest ability, even more so than the ability to break a wall of force with your bare hands. You could dip into this Prestige class if you wanted to, especially if you wanted to avoid the supposed substandard plus 12 bonus hit points instead of plus 20 that you could be getting with Epic Toughness. It probably is better to go into this for at least a few levels, preferably at least the first 10 or so, just to get a couple of uses of each of those different per day abilities, and to get a little taste of everything else that the Prestige class has to offer. You are sort of giving up 3 feats in a way, if you want to think of it that way, maybe 2.5, in order to get into this Prestige class, so you should be hoping that you get at least that much out of it. I would definitely consider the Legendary Dreadnought Prestige class worth taking for any high-level martial character that meets the prerequisites. Even if you have to take a small diversion of a few levels in Fighter to get there, the features can be really worth it, and they do progress faster than your feats are going to, even as a straight-up fighter at epic levels. So because of that, I'm going to give this Prestige class 4 stars for concept and 4 stars for execution. While, yes, some sort of capstone would be nice, that's really not what epic level Prestige classes are about for the most part, and this one is meant to be one that you can dip in and out of throughout your epic level career. As for other classes going into this prestige class, barbarians will actually benefit even more, as their damage reduction will improve more quickly than the base barbarian class would, ironically, and also get more class features. And there's only so many times per day that you can rage, so those extra uses of rage really start to feel hollow after a little while, so this will be a very nice diversion for barbarian. As for ranger, if you really are serving as your party's frontliner, this is going to be helpful for that, and it's going to help you shore up the difference in toughness between a fighter and a ranger. So that can be a very helpful thing as well. And you're also going to gain proficiency with all types of armor and shields, so that'll help you step into that frontliner role if you're already not quite there. A lot of non-core base classes like the knight and the samurai also seem to fit the concept here quite well, and if you are playing a samurai into epic levels, then you certainly ought to take this one to make up for the experience that you've probably been having so far. That said, while those other classes do benefit more, they are also going to have to put in a lot more sacrifice to get into this class, seeing as they're going to still need to take all of those feats for prerequisites, and that's going to be demanding a lot more from a class that doesn't get bonus feats. So, in closing, this is a great, well-rounded prestige class, thematically on point, and great for all sorts of martial epic level characters that really want to be a legendary dreadnought in battle. And that'll be about it for this prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.